Chapter 11. I don't have a clever introduction to this chapter. No deep thoughts or feelings to reflect on. I mean, I'm practically falling out of a car at this point. So I guess the only thing going through my mind was that the 10 seconds I gave myself to both concoct this little stunt of mine and execute it was not enough time. Oh, that and the regret that preceded the crash landing on the pavement, where I earned every scrape and bruise I took home. I remember coming to a rolling stop, scared to see how my stupidity had cost me. I was alive, but I expected to find a compound fractured elbow or an amputated leg. There was nothing, just the burning sting of my impulsiveness. In my overdramatic mind, that would have been enough to make me lay there and wait for some urban buzzards to pick me clean, but adrenaline came to my rescue. Gordana slammed on her brakes. I don't even know if she had processed what happened, but Lord knows what she was readying to do to me. My brilliant vanishing act separated us by only a few yards, so I needed to get back to my feet and make a run for it before she could catch me. In her urgency, she exited the car without her umbrella. Boy, did she look like a drowned rat. I assume, at least. I ran off into the darkness and didn't bother to look back. Sprawled out on my desk, I awoke the next day in a muddle we'll refer to as an age-appropriate hangover. Did I dream the car fiasco? The cleaned and bandaged patches on my body told me no. The soreness I felt screamed it. I wiped the drool from the corner of my mouth and sifted through my nesting material. Discarded pencilings of a dragon turned gluttonous from the mountain of treasure she guarded. There was an apprentice, too, whose purpose was to shine the individual pieces until the vain reptile could see herself. The young apprentice was interested in something the dragon possessed. Excuse me. He would have forfeited all the gold and silver in the lair to just get close to the jewel of his eye, the princess. But the lizard wouldn't have it. She attempted to intimidate the apprentice by saying he was not worthy of riches so fair. She would have happily seen the apprentice leave her cave and never return. But he wasn't going to go away or give up. He was, however, going to miss his ride. Hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I was met halfway to the car with a stiff punch on the arm. Honestly, I should have known that was coming from the look on Kelly's face when I walked up. I deserved it. Ouch! Nice to see you too. I take it you heard, huh? I winced, rubbing my shoulder. Let's see. I heard something about a lunatic who flung himself out of Mother's car and nearly got himself killed until she was blue in the face, she recounted angrily. What were you thinking? I wasn't, okay? I'm sorry. But it was the only thing I could do to keep her away from the house, I answered calmly, trying to limit my public flogging. Her reply came as a hug, the tightest I've ever received, and a whisper into my collar. I'm just glad you're okay, but we have another problem. She's going after Babbitt. What are you talking about? I smiled, misjudging her seriousness. Before she caught us last night, Nan must have shown her your book, and told her that he was real and lived on the property. She came early this morning with a trap, eager to catch that filthy rodent, she explained, clearly perturbed with the situation. She's doing this to get back at me, I admitted guiltily. Yeah, and rabbit stew on the table of that dinner party seems like the ultimate revenge, she agreed apprehensively. Miss Mighty Hunter set her trap near the edge of the flower garden. It wasn't hidden well. I'd say a mole could see that a delicious red blossom she used as bait looked suspicious with a cage around it. Gordana didn't know what she was doing, but I knew that wasn't the point. I still needed to hope Babbitt could outsmart her. "It's unsprung, and there's no sign he's been here," I remarked, thankfully, scanning the ground around the area. "I'm not surprised," Kelly responded, searching as well. "With all the racket she made coming through here, he probably won't move far from his burrow for the rest of the day." "We can dispose of the trap then, right?" I asked yearningly. "We could do that," she answered with a pensive twinkle in her eye. "But what if we don't? What if we let him get caught? Stay in place long enough to get a good look at him. You'll show him he can trust you by letting him free, and he'll learn to stay away from traps in case she does this again." "Better us than your mother," I conceded. "So did you have something in mind?" "A stakeout," she instructed. "We pitch a tent and wait for dusk. Since no one is supposed to be watching, Babbitt should feel safe enough to hopefully hop his way into the trap. The second it's triggered, we'll be right there to minimize his stress and save the day." "First things first, Kimasabi. It needs better camouflage," I smirked. Camp took dang near the rest of the day to establish. After rummaging through drawers, closets, trunks, and spare rooms, we were able to find what we needed for a lovely night beneath the stars. Well, almost. See, there were these old lanterns I had come across. Kelly knew they'd never light for one reason or another, yet she let me sit there and monkey with them until I got good and frustrated. She snickered at my mumblings and dangled a mason jar full of fireflies in front of my face. The simple solution to my complication, and the punchline to her self-serving prank. The funny part is, I don't think she felt the least bit sorry for me. Not then, and not when she got me into the tent and absolutely hustled me at 500 rummy. "Where did you learn your trapping skills, Tonto?" she asked, dealing the cards. "I help my dad with it. Keeps the raccoons out of the trash," I said, organizing my hand. "We have this one who comes by so often, we started calling him Steve. No matter how far we take him for release, he always finds his way back." "Is that who taught you to jump from vehicles?" she grinned. "No, that was my mom," I joked back, drawing a card. We had to control ourselves so our laughter didn't compromise the mission. "I have to know, though, what was so bad about the car ride with my mother that your instinct was to get yourself run over?" she inquired, with a hand over her mouth. "Nothing. Your mother was an absolute peach, a candidate for sainthood, even," I fibbed sarcastically. "Maybe you should do some praying to the saint of card playing and ask to be better at this. I'm out," she giggled, laying down her last card. Prior to putting my negative points on the score sheet, our attention was taken by a metallic chime. "That must be our boy," she thought aloud. An alarm was raised, and it was blaring the closer we came. Babbitt was going buck wild, kicking and jumping around, trying every trick in the book to bust out of that cage. We crawled our way to the trap, taking our approach slow and easy so as not to upset the raging bronco into hurting himself during his tantrum. I told Kelly to stay back, figuring one person was enough of a crowd at first. When he saw me, he was desperate to create space, standing upright and smooshing himself into the back wall of the cage. He would have climbed up it too if his paws fit. It was obvious he wasn't curious about me like times before, so I needed to extend an olive branch, and extend it fast. "Shh, shh, shh. It's okay, buddy," I whispered, inching closer to him. "That's a good-looking blossom you have there. You can eat it if you want to. No one's gonna hurt you." His ears perked straight up in reaction to my voice, almost like he understood me. A foot slid out, but when he couldn't reach the blossom with his toes, it turned into a giant, cautious step. He then picked it up, when certain I wasn't going to move suddenly, and crammed the whole thing into his mouth. Good, huh? I chuckled at his pudgy cheeks. Now, I'm going to open this and let you out whenever you're ready. I unlatched the door, placed a baby carrot just outside, and stepped away. And after being sure of what I was going to do, he hopped out. Again, after being sure what I was going to do, he hopped out, gave a sniff, and proceeded to munch. On his last bite, I pulled another carrot from my pocket and held it out to him. All right, Babbitt, here goes the farm. I gulped. He twitched his nose at my shaking hand and hopped toward me, stretching out to gnaw on the tip of the carrot. A blink later, he was eating out of my hand. He was relaxing now, growing comfortable with my mannerisms. Though he was still watching my hand scrupulously, he laid his ears back and let me pet his head, accepting my touch. I gave Kelly the signal that it was safe to come over, but it became evident that she had other concerns. Laken, I hope you have enough of those to go around, she faltered. What are you? I spun around to see what had her so flummoxed, and lost my balance at the sight, landing on my rump next to Babbitt, only able to utter, "Holy cow!" And what a curious sight it was. I never expected to turn and be surrounded by rabbits. There were more of them than I've ever seen in one place. We had to have counted between 50 and 75 of them, in all shapes and sizes, just watching us. They seemed interested in what we were doing with Babbitt. Kelly retreated beside me, and they engulfed her previous post, closing in around us. Is this your family? I asked our cotton-tailed friend. They look happy to see you. They look mighty happy to see you. He was finishing his mouthful of carrot, whilst, I swear to the good Lord above, I caught him smiling. Meanwhile, my mom was doing whatever it is moms do when they wrongfully assume they know where their son is. Since they are known for being drawn to untidiness like a bug to a zapper, she must have sniffed out the disaster on and around my desk like a basset hound. She neatly stacked what was salvageable and tossed the rest. This unburied the illustrations of Kelly and the animals of the Loch that I left in plain view. Handling each delicately, she took time to admire a person and place of which she herself was not familiar. Odd as they may have been, she chalked them up to being artwork for a new story she wasn't privy to, and continued on. What didn't get overlooked or passed over, however, was the envelope containing the last week's pay that I forgot to put in the mailbox. Understandably, these sorts of things tend to supply their own questions. While she hovered her hand over the phone, debating whether or not to call Crocker's and ask them, her conscience suggested that maybe the subject of a mysterious envelope filled with cash is a conversation best conveyed in private. So, she herded Lottie into the car and drove to Crocker's house. Poor Lottie, she believed I was where I told Mom I'd be, and was confused as to why they were now rushing there as if something was wrong. She had no reason to suspect that either I or our secret was in danger, though she'd soon realize. From the back seat, she watched Mom knock on the door. When Miss Darby answered instead of Crocker, she started to panic on the inside and cry on the out. She knew Mom was being informed that I wasn't there and hadn't been in a while. The only thing scarier was the look on Mom's face as she turned back to the car, from which Lottie's tears didn't hide real well in the rear view. You know what, guys? I'm going to cut this one a little bit short because, as you can tell, the drama is really, really picking up. And I happen to know that the next chapter, chapter 12, settles around the dinner party and kind of all of the characters of the book so far intermingling and interacting and having conversations and stuff. And I really want the tension and the drama of something like that to stand on its own. So I am going to cut this one a little bit short and give both of these chapters some time to, or the opportunity to stand out on their own and keep the story going really well. So as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed it and definitely come back for the next one. Until then, we'll see you later.